Welcome to Notable Approvals. I am attorney Amanda Shaffer. A few announcements to get to today before we get to our case. First, as always, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and everywhere that you get your Shapiro lawyers news and information from so you don't miss any more of our lives or updates. Second, if you find this video helpful, or any of our other videos for that matter, or know somebody who you think may be helped or benefit from seeing it, please feel free to share with people. We're trying to get this helpful information out there. And I know with a lot of these cases, a lot of what I talk about are issues that other people are dealing with at the same time. And finally, don't forget, tune in tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, specifically at 6, but Pacific Time. We will be having episode 14 of Are You Smarter Than a Naturalized Citizen? If you watched episode 13, which was about a month ago, we actually had the show, we had to postpone it mid-show, thanks to what was Hurricane Ida, by then was Tropical Storm Ida. Literally the ceiling broke open and one of our contestants was just wiped out. So we didn't get to finish episode 13. However, Andrea, our immigration attorney Andrea, one of the contestants who did not get wiped out last week, she is going to be returning tomorrow night to face off against someone else. And hopefully we can get through the whole show this time. But we wish attorney Momita and her family the best, and we hope that they are able to quickly recover from the damage that occurred in their house. So with all of that out of the way, and you can catch that on Facebook, YouTube. I'll be doing the Instagram stream. And also, if you just say you're going to the event on our Facebook page, you'll be reminded when it starts. All right, so case today. This is for a client who was born in Congo and is a citizen of Mali. He has no citizenship in Congo. He entered the U.S. back in 2002 with a B1 visitor visa. He married a U.S. citizen in 2007. I do believe she filed for him, but I wasn't even an attorney then. We weren't his attorney then. Whatever happened or didn't happen, nothing happened with his immigration status. He didn't have anything necessarily negative, but it didn't work out the first time. He got divorced in 2018. 3 months later, he married a naturalized U.S. citizen who's from Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast. And she naturalized a long time ago. Now, I've talked about so many times when I talk about cases, notable approvals, when I do question and answer sessions, about how all marriages are different. And what is and is not normal or correct isn't always crystal clear. Now, if you knew nothing else about this case, but knew that these clients got married 3 months after one of them finalized their divorce, you might start to question it, and just as a USCIS officer might. However, remember one thing: date of your divorce is final doesn't mean that's the day you separate it. Because remember, I mentioned earlier, this client, his first wife, he married in 2007. He didn't get divorced until 2018. A lot of times people don't get divorced because the spouse leaves or they leave and they lose contact and don't know how to do a divorce if they can't find them. We see that happen a lot too. Point is, just because you hear, here's a divorce final date, here's the marriage date, you have to look outside that. And part of my job is to make sure that immigration officers do look outside that with the types of evidence we put in. I always know that when you have a short turnaround like that, even when it's completely explainable and legitimate, you still are going to have to be ready to deal with it. So that was the first little hurdle. And I say little because it was a little hurdle we had to get over. Then there was 2 other minor things that are kind of, you see these issues pop up a lot with people when they're applying for their green card. The first was that, he's been here since 2001, He has not had a work permit this whole time or been authorized to work in any way, shape, or form. So he has for many years worked without authorization. If you are married to a spouse of a US citizen, or you fall into the immediate relative category, which includes if you are a child over the age of 21 filing for your parent. If you're in that category and you work in the US without authorization, there's an exception in the law that says that it's okay. Basically, they'll look the other way. We're not thrilled you did it, but we're not going to hold it against you. You don't need a waiver or anything. So the only time you can get into trouble with this on the green card application is when you try to lie. So if you say, I've never worked in the US without authorization, the officer's going to say, well, you've lived here since 2002. How are you supporting yourself? And it's kind of obvious that either you worked without authorization, which out of these two options, I hope you did, or you did something that you shouldn't have that's against the law. So honesty is always the best policy. And that's why if you're worried about any of these things, you should check with a lawyer first before doing anything, because I could tell you whether or not you're going to need a waiver, whether or not it's going to be a problem. But I will always tell you to tell the truth, because you can't hide the truth from immigration, unfortunately. So the last major issue, not major for this case, not a major issue overall that we had, was this client had an arrest. Now, plenty of clients come to us who've been arrested. It's not the arrest itself that was the issue, it was the type of arrest. So he was actually arrested for allegedly sexually assaulting somebody. And it was somebody he knew, it was someone he lived with, and it ended up getting dismissed by the motion of the district attorney. And we're pretty sure that occurred because, I wasn't there, but from what I can tell, that the complainant who called the police wasn't telling the truth, that it never happened. So usually a serious charges like that, you don't see dismissed by motion on the DA when there's anything more there. So, but immigration doesn't need a conviction or a guilty plea in order to hold it against you. And what they could have done after seeing this certificate of disposition, which we were required to give immigration for our client to get his green card, they may see that and they will say, well, we want to know exactly what happened. And we get this sometimes. They'll say, look, we want to get the police report. We want to see what they said. We want to get all the records from the court about what happened in the criminal court. And a lot of times, cases like this, especially where they get dismissed pretty quickly, there's not many records, and that can be hard. We're dealing with that in another case right now that hopefully I'll be able to talk about sometime soon. But that's the problem sometimes with immigration, when you don't need a conviction to have a problem, even if it's just, we're talking a delay because now they want more evidence. It can be a big headache. So we try to avoid that. Obviously try to avoid getting arrested if you can altogether. But that wasn't, again, another little hurdle. Luckily that they didn't ask for more information on that. We did have our client explain it as well on the application, so we were all set with that. In terms of marriage evidence that we submitted, we had the best evidence, I say, that you can submit, which is birth certificates for the two kids that they have together. Usually when you have a child together, or multiple children together, and you put in their birth certificate and both of your names are on it, that's really strong evidence that you married this person because you intend to spend the rest of your life with that person, and not for the purposes of evading the immigration law. So we put in those certificates, but even so, I wasn't going to sit there and say, oh, all we need are children's birth certificates. Again, this is a totality of the circumstances approach. We have to make sure we prove that there's absolutely no question about the marriage. Birth certificates are great, but it doesn't tell the whole story. So we put in they have actually two joint bank accounts together, two checking accounts. We put in both. We only put in a couple of months, but there was a lot of transactions. It was clear that this was their everyday cards or debit cards that they used. And then the only other things we really had was their wedding photos, and then photos with them, their kids, family, and friends. Again, I don't just submit photos. I staple them to the paper. I write I type out a little nice description explaining what it is, and put it in order of a chronological order so we could show the progress of their relationship. So they did send a request. I think in this case oh, right. Okay. So originally, so these clients were really lucky. When they came to us, it was right during that time period where you had to file the Form I-944, Declaration for Self-Sufficiency. And that was that extra requirement added on by Trump that Biden got rid of. Thank God, because it was like another 20-page form and a crazy amount of more evidence you needed. And with this client, we were a little delayed filing because he couldn't get me any of the evidence. And these are things like they wanted to see assets, liabilities. They wanted if all your proof of schooling, passing the English test, a credit report. I mean, it was an absurd amount of things they were looking for. And all this client gave me was like 2 of the things out of like 20 things that they claimed to be required. It was something ridiculous. And we said to him, okay, look, maybe you'll get lucky and this requirement will go away, but we can't file it. They're going to send it back if we only send them, if we don't send them all this evidence. Like, I don't know what you want to do. Now we ended up filing this in December because he's like, I just want to get it filed and we'll take our chances. And Biden came in January. We had a pretty good feeling that they were going to reverse that rule, but we weren't sure if and when it was going to happen. He did. Biden did take it away and took away that requirement. So fortunately, the client didn't have to deal with that. Otherwise, I don't think 9 months later we'd have an approved marriage petition and green card, just because the public charge rule added so much more work onto it and so much more that USCIS had to review. I went from like piles of this high to piles of this high. It was almost double. It was absurd. They wanted like 12 months of bank statements to prove you paid your bills. It doesn't matter. It's over. Point is, we didn't have to do it for these clients. It was the source of a lot of stress, so we're very glad, and we're really happy for them. This is a very lovely couple, very nice family that have been waiting. They've been waiting a long time to finally get everything together and get it out. And because they've been married now over 2 years, our client gets a 10-year green card instead of a 2-year green card. Because if you're married 2 years or more at the time of your interview or your admission into the U.S., then you don't get a conditional green card. You don't have to file an I-751 in 2 years. You get your 10-year green card, and you either stay a permanent resident, or in 3 years, if he's still married and living with his wife, he'll be eligible to apply for his citizenship. So this is a pretty straightforward case. It ran into a lot of the same types of little bumps in the road that we see pretty often in here, but we were able to come out in front of them, and since we tackled everything head on, we were able to get the case approved within 9 months, which is a pretty tall task when you don't have a case that's just smooth sailing all along. Even one arrest can throw everything out of proportion. So congratulations to our client. We're so happy for you. We look forward to helping you apply for your citizenship when you're ready. And that is all today for notable approvals. Don't forget, like us, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're watching us from. Share this video if you found it helpful or know someone who may. And tomorrow night, don't forget to tune in, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, to Are You Smarter Than a Naturalized Citizen, episode number 14. See if Attorney Andrea can knock off Attorney Omar and finally have a conclusion in her quest to pass the naturalization test. And as you see, I'm wearing my Yankee hat today. Go Yankees. Big game tonight against the Red Sox. Tomorrow night, though, no playoff game, or at least no Yankee playoff game. I don't know if the NL is playing tomorrow. So no excuses on not watching the show. But tonight, we're all about the Yankees, so go Yanks, and hopefully tomorrow I can be saying that we're in the playoffs. Well, I guess we're technically in the playoffs, but we're in the ALDS. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day.